to Adult, the podcast guiding you to adulting better. My name is Abby, and welcome to this week's wonderful show. So, thank you guys for putting up with last week's episode. The audio was not great, and I was very upset because we tested it, it went okay, then it stopped being okay. Buh. Anyway, drama aside, nothing will ever sound that bad again because I have a shiny new recorder coming today, and it's going to be so pretty, and all of my interviews in person are going to sound 100% better. So, look forward to that, and look forward to in-person interviews while I run around asking people to be interviewed with my shiny new recorder. One of the things that I've always really wanted to make sure I talked about on this podcast was addiction and sobriety and all the things, everything from alcohol all the way to, meth, everything. I wanted to make sure that got covered because the early 20s into the mid-20s, that's when a lot of people find themselves in trouble, especially transitioning out of college, the alcoholism. It was fun in college, and then it's trying to translate that into being a, adult person with a job. Sometimes their things get a little bit muddled. So sometimes it's hard when you wake up one day and you realize, oh damn, I think I'm an alcoholic, or I think I'm addicted to using drugs. And you don't know what to do. You don't know who to reach out for. You don't know what to do. Well, fun story, I was reached out to on this topic organically on Twitter, and I decided to give her an interview. Her name is Shira Goldberg. She is an online harm reduction advocate, counselor, and certified sober recovery coach. Now, she volunteered some wonderful time to talk to me over Skype, and we discuss, a little bit of everything, because I wanted to know, how to find help. What do you do? And what do you do as a person who sees someone else in trouble? How do you help them? Because it can be tough. I don't know if you guys have ever known anybody that's gone through recovery or have seen the face of addiction, but it is not pretty. It really isn't. And sometimes the recovery method, not pretty. And you need somebody to help you lead you through that. And that is what someone like Shira does. They help you because sometimes leaning on your friends, you burn some bridges. And I mentioned this later in the podcast in the interview, but that's a lot to ask from a friend. So I'm just going to jump into the interview. If you guys have any questions, I'll give all my contact and her contact info towards the end. All right, let's just jump right into it. All right, we are here with Shira, and she is volunteered her time to talk to us about all kinds of fun stuff, addiction, sobriety, coaching, whatnot. Hi, Shira.
There's so much to talk about. Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, it's great to have you. So why don't you tell everybody what your background is?
Well, it's I'll start with my education because I'm very proud of it.
All right.
I got a bachelor's of science in applied behavior analysis, which is behavior modification, and then I decided I wanted to go and really pursue counseling. So I started grad school, and then as I was in the process of that for a master's in counseling, I decided I need to get my official alcohol and other drug credentials. So I did that at the same time for a whole year. I went to 2 schools, which was insane, and I do not recommend it. But I did well, and now I'm going to be able to get dual licensure once I graduate and complete 3,000 hours, which will take 100 years, but it's all worth it.
All right. That's okay. So dual licensure, is that a common thing, not common thing?
I don't think it's too common because basically what it translates to is 2 different masters. So
oh, wow.
So you can get credentialed or you can get certified. I mean, it's all a big hot mess, but there's so many different credentials and stuff. I can't even keep up. I think I have enough, and then it's like, oh no, you need this one too. So, but I also have a recovery to practice certification from NADAC, and NADAC they're nationwide, probably the biggest organization, or at least one of them.
Okay. So, and I don't know, this might be, let me know if this is too personal or not, but is there a reason that you decided to get into this field?
Yes, there is, because addiction runs quite heavily in my family, especially alcohol. So that was passed along to me, and I had 8 tumultuous years out there, couch surfing and not knowing what was going to happen from day to day. And I actually was able to turn it around, and I decided, well, let me get serious about it. And I tried AA, and actually about 3 times, and it just it just wasn't a fit for me. And
Yeah.
I was like, nothing against AA, but it's like, we're all not hairdressers. So, we all have different tastes. And so then I started doing some research, because that's what I like to do. And I started finding all of these amazing resources. And the first one I found was the McShin Foundation. They had a recovery coach manual just for free, a PDF. And I was like, oh, what's that? And I read the whole thing, and I was like, oh, I want to do that. So that's how the whole thing started. So he probably doesn't even know he was the catalyst for my recovery. So thank you.
Wow. Well, congratulations. That's excellent. It's not a lot of people can do what you did. So congratulations.
Well, I think more can do it than they believe they can do it. If we could change that belief system, I'm sure there would be a lot more of me all over the place.
Oh yeah, I bet. So okay, so bare bones this here. What qualifies you well, I guess it's probably a little bit gray area, but when does it become addiction? And this could be, and when you deal with addiction, you deal with everything, right? Not just alcohol. Do you deal with some of the big hitters too? Some of the
like
nasty street
heroin
stuff. Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a big one out
meth,
here where I am. You'd be
meth
surprised.
and heroin. Mm-hmm. And even cocaine. I live in Napa, so there's, it's just whatever you want, you can find it. It's unbelievable. So I do help people that basically they want to be helped. And that sounds like a no-brainer, but what I find a lot is they want to stop. And that is all the difference in the world.
Yeah. I mean, you can't help someone that doesn't want any help. I know that's true for a lot of people who are in the denial phase of having an addiction, where it's like, no, this is, I know, and I've seen it mostly with alcohol, but it's, oh, I don't have a problem at all. And other people on the outside can clearly see that there's an issue. Exactly. And you can't help them if they can't get there themselves, that what they're doing isn't okay.
Yeah, and I don't judge, and that's one of my things. I'm really into motivational interviewing and the stages of change. So you have to truly meet someone where they're at. So if they're just considering maybe cutting back, I wouldn't throw out, hey, you need to stop completely today, and I'm going to throw you in a rehab or do an intervention. It's like the success will be when they see incremental progress, and they're in control of it, and that's what perpetuates the desire to keep going, because they're motivated.
Yeah. And okay, so if you're sitting around and you're thinking, man, I think I have a problem, I'm doing, I'm too much of X, Y, or Z, how do you, what do you do? How do you go out and find help? What are the resources? Do you pick up the phone? Do you get online? Do you just shout into the void? How do you
shout into the void? I'm gonna steal that, okay? But I'll give you credit once in a while.
Absolutely, I'm fine with
that. Well, what they really want is structure and consistency, and someone to actually believe in them, and that's really key, because they've tried probably 100 times without telling people, because they don't want to get their hopes up, and
right.
that it doesn't work, and then they feel worse, and then they feel the shame, but stigma is the brutal force that we all have to deal with. And it's the stigma of losing your family, your loved ones, what you've done with your life. It's just overwhelming. And I always tell people, if shame worked, we'd all be fine. Because we are our own worst critic, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I say, you know what? Just leave that outside the door when you come in and deal with me, and let's just get down to brass tacks. And it's drinking or starting doing drugs, for most people that end up having a problem, because I don't think everyone's an addict, obviously, or has addictive behavior. I mean, I don't even use those words. So, but people that have a tendency to to numb out are people that just don't know how to process their emotions.
Right.
So if you can get them to want to do that, and it gets really tough for them. I mean, it's not an easy thing to be vulnerable, but if you can get there, then we really have something to work with. So it takes a lot of strength and courage to step up to this plate.
Oh yeah. Okay. So I guess since we're also talking about not just alcohol, which I know even with the stigma of having an addiction and trying to say, hey, I have a problem. What if that added stigma of what you're doing is patently illegal? Like, I'm doing drugs that I shouldn't be doing. Like, what there's a fear of saying, hey, I have a problem doing this because you're afraid that someone might turn you in, or that you're going to be shamed on that figure. I mean, is that there's like coming to you or coming to someone like you that's a safe thing to do, correct?
Yeah, I mean, and I want to talk about this. You briefly just touched on it before, but like the background, the certification of a recovery coach, they're all different because it's not regulated. So I think that's really important for people to know.
Yeah.
But when people want to come to me, they're pretty resolved to the fact that at least they feel like I have a problem, but not I'm an alcoholic or a drug addict. It's like,
right.
Yeah, I might be upsetting my wife, or I might miss a couple appointments, but it's not a big deal. I'm okay. That's when I usually, become a part of their world, and they know they're in a place of, it's scary for them to admit that, because once you admit something, you have to do something about it. And I always tell people, once you know better, you'll do better. And once they work with me, they know better. And even if they forgot, we don't lose our knowledge and our language. So we just uncover and, peel the layers back, and then we get down to it.
Okay. Yeah. And so, yeah, because I know that when I went to college, our college town had the rule of if you get if you need to have your stomach pumped, if you have alcohol poisoning, even if you're under the age of 21, which is clearly illegal for you to be drinking, you can come to the hospital, get treated, and we are not going to arrest you. Yeah. So we will help treat you. So, and that's, I guess that's what, I guess that's my curiosity. If someone is just, is on heroin or doing cocaine or whatever, and they're addicted to it and they know that they need to stop, I mean, is there the fear that they're going to reach out to somebody and that person's going to say, haha, I'm actually a secret cop? Like, is that a thing? I don't.
That people don't want to go to the hospitals because they think they'll get arrested?
Right, yeah. Like, they think that what they're doing, they can't reach out for help from someone from professional because they're not doing something that they're supposed to be doing in the first place.
That kind of language is not helpful. If I were to say, basically I don't, be accusatory or blame them. I mean, I'm in a place of, wow, that is one thing that's incredible that you're even looking into help. So you motivate them by just pointing out all of the little, it sounds like little millions of things, but every step is a total brick for a strong foundation. So them just on their own asking for help is huge. So you never take away someone's strength when they're down. I mean, when they're up too, but especially when they're down.
Well, yeah.
So what I would advise as far as, I know in California we're a lot more liberal than Mississippi or whatever, but we have laws that protect people that are trying to save someone's life. And I think that should be not based state by state. I think that should be a nationwide policy. So,
definitely. Yeah. I agree with that.
Mm-hmm. So if you don't know what your state does, as long as you have Google it and do your research. And even there's so many nonprofits that are based out of harm reduction, which I want to talk about. They would know. So it's all about just trying to reduce your risk. It's like I always say, you're going to act stupid, be smart about it.
I like that. I really like that. Okay, so wait, and you want to talk about it, and I got curious when you said it. Harm reduction.
Mm-hmm.
Go.
Okay. Okay. Well, I love it. I think it's not something everyone understands until I say this very same thing over and over again. So anybody that knows me, they're probably rolling their eyes. I ask, do you wear a seatbelt?
Yes.
Well, you're practicing harm reduction.
Oh.
Harm
that does make sense.
Yeah. What is harm reduction? Reducing the harm that you would incur doing what you're going to be doing anyway. So condoms, if you don't want to have kids.
Right.
There
you go.
A reduction of the chance that you're going to if you have a condom on. So we don't advocate or promote doing messed up things that are not healthy for you. But what we do promote, it's a whole grassroots effort, and it's coast to coast. I will put you in contact with great resources so you can refer. There's HAMS in New York. There's harm reduction based out of Oakland. I mean, there's the another part of harm reduction would be the needle exchange. That's pretty much the biggest component. If anyone knows about harm reduction, they'll be like, oh, okay. And that's pretty controversial. So it's not the run-of-the-mill daily thing that people go to. But once they find out about it, for a lot of people, it just makes more sense.
Oh, yeah. And yeah, I will riddle my show notes for this podcast with links to everything, because I want to make sure that if this entire episode only helps one person, I'm completely fine with that. So, yes, riddled with info to anything that you've mentioned here. So, be sure to, I'll hit you up afterward, but be sure to send me everything you've got. And, yeah, okay. So to carry on with that, if I'm not somebody, like in a hypothetical, I'm not a person that has a problem, but I definitely notice that someone that I know or care about has reached out for help and they're going through the recovery process. What is something that I can do to help them?
Well, if you're concerned about someone, it's a little different when someone is getting out of control, quote unquote, with drugs or alcohol. Because if you have that conversation as soon as you're aware of it, if you set a healthy boundary, you're saying, look, this isn't how you usually act, and it's completely without judgment. All you're doing is saying what you're seeing. And if it's facts, then they can't dispute it. You're not saying, I can't believe it, and getting them all set up to be defensive and in denial. But when you care about someone, you're going to say something. If they were sick or looking like crap, you wouldn't be like, I'm just going to pretend I don't notice that.
Right. That makes sense. Now, and if that person is already actively going through recovery, like I know that they have talked to somebody and they are going through, they're being healthy, they're doing their thing, or well, healthy, quote unquote, whatever. What can I do to aid their recovery? Like they're going through it, and I know that recovery must be a bear of a thing to deal with.
Well, there are a lot of different ways, but the best way you could help someone is that they feel comfortable enough with you and you should kind of initiate this, because it's scary for them. It's like how to relearn how to walk. It's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be completely perfect. And you need to talk about that. What are they willing to do? Because like you said, they won't do anything because you want them to.
Right. So,
and if they're comfortable, ask them the permission. Hey, do you mind if we talk about this? It's just out of concern. And if there's a way I can help you brainstorm and, do things in a different way, that might work out better. And most people would be receptive to that.
Absolutely. Okay, yeah. trying to think. I like went all over the place with all of my questions, and now I have a million questions I want to ask you all at one time. So
Well, I can tell you about a couple of other things, like smart recovery, because
yes, go for it.
It's evidence based.
Okay.
And that is also one of the things in my early, I call it my recovery, but I really am growing out of that word for myself. I think it's more of just an evolution, of growth and renewal, and we all do that in different capacities.
Yes.
So when I was doing my research, smart recovery. The smart recovery is based on cognitive behavioral therapy. And this is when I took psychology in college and I was interested, but I hadn't heard about it in a really long time. And I was like, well, that sounds interesting. Maybe that would help me. And so I started going to therapy, and I was really understanding smart recovery, although you don't have to go to therapy. But then I found heart math. My therapist had heart math. And that is a fantastic product too. It helps you regulate your breathing, and you can actually see, like when you are in the hospital, like see your heartbeat or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they have a little thing like that. It's a program you can buy. I don't get paid for this saying this, by the way. But
free advertising.
Yeah, I know. I'll email them later about that. But yeah, it's like, it showed me, literally it showed me that I could control myself. And that was the first glimpse of hope for me, Like, well, wait a minute, maybe I'm not a total, mess up and a total loser. And, maybe I could climb my way back. And that's when it started. Although it was, still terrifying to think, oh, I'm not going to drink every day anymore. But,
oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of people feel that way when they get started.
Well, and it is such a familiar thing to do, especially when you're doing it daily, hourly, whatever it is. To give up something that big in your life is first of all very brave, but also it's very scary because you don't. What do you do? How do you fill that time?
Exactly.
So
that's another point. I think I'm going to write a book because I introduce this topic so frequently, and everybody's really interested, but I'm doing it like piecemeal, like one at a time, maybe 10 at a time. But it's, like I said, it's evidence-based, all the stuff that helped me. Now, do I say, because people will say, oh, I'm anti-AA. I'm like, I'm not anti-anything except for antioxidants. That's it. Whatever works for you, works for you. Okay?
Right.
So if something works for me and I'm not completely self-destructive and at risk of jail every single day because of the decisions I make on a daily, then it's working. That's harm reduction.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. Yeah. And hey, when you write your book and you're on your book tour, let me know. We'll do I'll re-interview you and all of your favorite work.
Okay. Yeah, I think I actually in the works of co-writing a book with someone who he's actually the one who trained me to be a certified master recovery coach. So now we're writing a book together, but I'm kind of pushy and persistent on that. So he's like, okay.
Oh, you're doing it all, getting double certified, writing a book, got your... And wait, so you have a YouTube channel as well, correct?
Oh, yeah, I do. And I'm branching out, but I've had this channel for 3 years. I took basically a whole year off because my master's program is 3 years, and I had to focus a lot more on that and working this past year, so it went to the wayside. But now it's getting back up, and I am learning I'm going to learn how to start a podcast. So I have lined up so many incredible guests. It's just it's unreal. I feel like, I should be on E! Entertainment instead of on a podcast. But I'm meeting great people, and I think podcasters are like the nicest people I've ever met.
I think they're pretty great.
So I just have to learn how to get all set up, which apparently is more difficult than I thought because I haven't really got it up yet. But I'm hoping this month we'll see some results.
Oh yeah, once you get the ball rolling, I can speak from experience. It's the journey all the way to that first episode getting posted literally anywhere is the hardest you'll do, and then everything between the next episodes is all easy. So,
well, I'm gonna take your word on
it. Random podcasting advice in the middle of our addiction talk. I love it.
Hey, life is about everything, right?
Exactly. I like teaching people about all the things. So. Okay, well, I think I was mostly curious about how to go about helping and how to find help, because I know that obviously there are just people everywhere that just need to be able to find help. And like I said, I have my show notes riddled with, where to go and how to help and things that you've given me for how to help. Is there any sort of advice that you would want to impart to anybody that might be on just right there on discovering something about themselves about having a problem? Like, what would you say to somebody who may or may not be in that gray area of having a problem?
Well, I think a good rule of thumb is if you think you're having a problem, then you're having a problem. So does that mean that you are 100% on your way to, addiction? No, it just means you have to kind of look at what you're doing and cut back. It's like, am I eating too much cake or am I going out to dinner too much? It's like, that happens.
Yeah.
If you can reel it back in, then you're like actually most Americans or most people in the world. But for some, they're not able to just stop when they say, hey, I'm doing it too much. That's when I might come into your world and, give you an assessment, talk to you, and see what your goals are at that time, and let you know what's available, what I can do with you. I always facilitate. I don't dictate. I leave that up to like drill sergeants. It's a real collaborative endeavor. So just like how I explain it to people is working with someone at this level is a relationship. And you're going to be talking about the, vulnerable things and things that make you cry and things that are not anything that you want to remember. But, whatever comes out, you have to feel safe. And
Absolutely.
So it's just like I just explained it, like, hey, you know what I would do if you're interested in recovery or sober coaching, talk to some recovery coaches, and most of them give you a 15 to 30 minutes free consultation call. So take them up on it and say, hey, this is where I'm at. This is what I think I want, and what can you offer? You will know at the end of that phone call if you feel like that person might be the one, so to speak, and
find the right person. Oh yeah, it's all about finding that right fit, because this is going to be kind of like a recovery coach is the person that's going to kind of see you through some not so great times.
Right. And they're the ones that are going to, we call it like, in school, we call it holding the container. So you need someone that's able to, or ego strength, be your ego strength while you're at your vulnerable, when you're doing some real work and, looking within and processing. And it's a lot of, emotionally, it's really trying times. So, depending on who you go to, they might not have the experience or the training like I do to help you move through it in a healthy way. So what I'm looking for is to help this person navigate without re-traumatizing themselves. Now, if you're with someone who took a 3-day recovery coach training and got certified, are they going to be able to be there for you when you really need it?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't know that. You have to do your research. and ask these questions. What is your background? What is your training? How long have you been doing this? We would ask the same or probably more questions about buying a car than we would doing this.
Yeah, that's kind of a scary prospect. And plus, I know a lot of people, like, when they're going through that, they're like, well, I'll just ask my, my really good friend that I've known forever to be my, my coach, and I don't need to get a professional help. I have, you're my perfect friend. But I mean, you kind of want to find somebody who's not a part of your life like that, because
they can't. Your friend's not going to tell you you're effing up. They might be afraid to show you too much too soon. They're not sure what to say. They might make it worse. I mean, this is what they're thinking. And the person that potentially has the problem is going to start throwing their resentment on that person.
Right.
And you need someone to help you be accountable. And in the beginning, it's about structure, it's about consistency, and about filling your time. And that's how you start. That's brick by brick.
Absolutely. So, okay, so when you say filling your time, I don't know, this is just a really off the cuff question, but do you have are there activities or things that you give to people to fill up their time?
Yeah, we play with bouncy balls a lot. I'm just joking.
I'd be on board for that. If you just told me that's all we were going to do, I'm in.
Yeah, everybody's got to be a recovery coach. Well, it's a very tender time because you have to fill that space. Because, for example, if you're on heroin for 3 years and you're an IV user, me telling you, oh, you're not going to do that today. What do what's the real motivation? So I always use the description of a little kid on the beach in the sand with his, shovel.
Yeah.
You see that all the time in the summer. They're scooping out the sand. If they don't fill that hole, which would be a void, with something very fast, what's going to happen every single time? It fills right back up because the waves keep coming in.
Exactly.
So the way to help you basically distract yourself is start focusing on what kind of goals, what are you interested in able to do, at that time. Maybe they're not working. Well, could you fill up some time, maybe, an X number of hours a day, and say, I'm going to look for a job. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, maybe I can do that. How many hours do you feel like you could realistically do? Maybe 2. You just started. Okay, we'll do 2 hours. Well, that's 2 hours more looking for a job, being in that headspace, which is crucial. And the results are, is he going to be proud of himself? Of course. He's done something he probably hasn't done in quite a few months or weeks or years. That's how it starts.
All right. So, I like that. Yeah, just finding anything. And I've read so many recovery stories where it's, they've just started doing something that I would think is just really innocuous. It's like, well, I started, knitting, or I started playing cards, or I started golfing or something. It's just something to do with your hands that's keeping your mind active, and you're not doing that thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fill the void and hang out with friends, because you don't want to isolate. And if you have someone who can hold you accountable that really can, try that, because, your friend might not charge you. I charge. So if they can do it consistently, then, that might be the way to go. So recovery coaches aren't always necessary. And they're available everywhere. A lot of them fly out. A lot of them they're called sober companions. I don't do that because I'm in school getting my master's, but that's just not my thing anyway. So
Right.
I do all my stuff over the phone or over the internet, like Skype.
Right. All right.
So they can't,
Perfect.
yeah, so they don't have the excuse, or rationale to say, oh, I can't get there, it's raining, or my car doesn't have gas, or it's too cold. It's like,
They can't escape you. I like it.
Yeah. They cannot escape me. Exactly.
Okay, well, I mean, you've answered all my questions and more. That was fantastic. Do you have any other like parting wisdom, like that you wanted to make sure that got out to the masses?
Yes, I do.
Actually,
I
go for it.
have
Go for it.
parting wisdom. They're pearls, don't you know? They're
Yes.
gems, actually. I would suggest anyone who is considering asking for help to have compassion for themselves, because when you're at that point, it's really scary, and all the outside world has that potential. So please don't judge yourself. You are someone that is asking for help. And on the flip side, don't go toward anyone where you think they're going to judge you. You want someone who understands that you're looking for help. You're not looking to be humiliated or running off to a rehab. It's like, this is where I'm at. Meet me here. That's the best advice I can give. And one more piece.
Yeah.
The third thing is, if you are not perfect, because that is one of the biggest ways you will fail, to try to think this is a perfect process, because you're not a perfect person. You weren't perfect before you started heroin. You're not going to be perfect after.
Oh,
so
no.
That's where the compassion, it has to be consistent. And if you slip up or relapse, or whatever you want to call it, it's your process. So it doesn't mean it's over. It's a part of your process. So,
absolutely. Absolutely. I am on board with that 100%, because some people, they get into those headspaces where they forget that they're a human being, and that while other human beings may not have the same problems that they're going through, they still have problems.
mm-hmm.
And admitting you have the problem and being able to fix it is the beautiful part of being alive. It's just like you make a mistake and you fix it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Which is why I'm with you. I've never really understood the stigma where it's like, hey, you know what? They've fallen in a hole. They're trying to get themselves out, and they have, that's a congratulatory thing. That's a, hey, you had something and you got over it. You did this. That's awesome. So just remember that you're, a person. Human beings make mistakes. Sometimes things happen.
You're so awesome. I'm really glad I connected with you, because I think you're so grand, because you really think like me. But there's a different philosophy. Certain people are like, tough love, or they're, let the person hit rock bottom. It's like, well, I see it coming from a different angle, and it's, if I have someone in my life that is asking for help, that wants to be helped, and who is making some effort, I'm going to be there. I'm not going to further abandon them. And if I see progress, then I want to help that, nourish that if I can. And it doesn't mean I'm codependent, or doesn't mean you're codependent. It means you care about someone. And if they feel you're approachable, they are much more likely, statistically, to eventually ask you for help. Doesn't that make sense?
That does make sense. That makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm. So if you're telling people to, don't talk to me until you're clean or sober, who knows when you're going to see that person again?
Oh yeah, that's a very risky move.
It is risky, but you know the person and you know yourself. So it's not these very specific rules, based on all the same factors. it's a dance. If I see someone who is trying, then I'm going to try to see where I can help. Now, does that mean give them money? No. Does that mean take their crap or their manipulation? If that's what they're doing, absolutely not. But if they're like, hey, I'm really thinking I might need some help, well, say, hey, maybe we could look up rehabs together. Or like, start the conversation. Where are you at? If they're like, they just want to get some money, then say, well, good luck with that. If they're talking about, I'm a little lost, I got sidetracked because you need help, and be like, well, now we can start having a conversation. So healthy boundaries are crucial.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much for talking with me. Honestly, this was great.
I'm so happy to. I was so excited, and thank you so much about changing the time 5 times for me.
No problem. Okay, well, quick, make sure everyone knows how to find you on the big wide world web.
Okay, I have 2 websites. It's theaddictionshow.com. You're going to see a lot of experts, leaders in the field, sometimes, celebrities, but I think the scientists are the real celebrities. And people I know, random people. You can find a lot of information on the website, The Addiction Show. And you will also find the link that will take you to the YouTube channel, which you can absolutely subscribe to. Please do. And also, you can email me at theaddictionshow.com, and you can tell me, whatever you want to. Your show sucks, or I love it. I want to be a guest, because I'm definitely grassroots on this. So, yeah, you reach out to me, and I would love it. And if you want to say hi, I could give you a possible shout-out when I'm doing the show.
Fantastic. All right, well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Shira.
Thank you so much.
So there it is, my wonderful interview. If you guys have any questions or comments about this interview, or want more information on how to get a hold of Shira, or any of the links that she had, most of it will be in the show notes. So if there's anything that I've left out, let me know and I will add it in there. Also, if you would like to get a hold of me, you can email me, learntoadult@gmail.com. I am also very active on Twitter for the podcast, always throwing my thing, @learntoadult. You can also go to the website, www.learntoadult.com. And we're on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Podbean, all of the wonderful places that you could possibly find a podcast. If you find me there, please throw me a rating and or a review. That would make me feel great. So, thank you guys so much for listening to this week. Next week, we'll have another wonderful podcast. I hope to see you then. Bye, guys.